Good morning. My name is Stephen with the Flint Genesee Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for joining us. I want to welcome you to our webinar on the Restart Flint and Genesee Grant Program. We're joined today by Christina Johnston, COO for the Flint and Genesee Chamber, and I will hand it over to Christina to introduce our guest and kick off the webinar.
Thanks, Stephen. We were with you last week with an exciting announcement, not just about the program itself, but about a funder that had come to the table with the Consumers Energy Foundation. And now we're excited to have announced this week an additional funder who's come to support small businesses, the CS Mott Foundation. And we've got Ridgway White from the CS Mott Foundation to share about their commitment to small businesses in Genesee County and Flint specifically.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me, Christina and Stephen. It's a tough time to be here, but I want to congratulate the Chamber on the launch of the Restart Flint and Genesee Grant Program. Christina, am I going into my full spiel right now, or
go ahead? Thank you so much thanks for joining us, and thanks for your contribution. And we'd love to hear more about your thoughts behind this.
Yeah, so and first and foremost, I do want to thank the Consumers Energy Foundation for their $200,000 support for small businesses throughout Genesee County. Just terrific. The Mott Foundation is adding to this with $250,000 to the program specifically to support African-American owned businesses in the city of Flint. The African-American community has been hit hardest by the coronavirus pandemic. And I'm alarmed by the racial disparities that have long existed and have been sort of particularly apparent in this pandemic, and just the pile-on effects of that on top of the Flint water crisis and decades of challenges. So being intentional about addressing those disparities, I think, is really important, especially in a time of crisis. And that's why the Mott Foundation is making this grant. We believe that African-American owned businesses are key to the Flint economy and our sense of community. We know that you want to protect your employees and customers as you reopen, and the changes that you'll need to make will require money. And that's at a time that revenues are probably way down. And so we want to help you get up and running again by providing the support for the things that you need to do that safely. We're working with the Chamber because they have systems in place to award grants transparently and efficiently. They have an external review committee composed of individuals from the community, and that's important. It's really important to have communities, reviewing these grants and understanding where businesses are and what their needs are. They'll also publish the names of all the businesses that received grants, and we know that. I just want to say really that we know that small businesses are at the heart of the city of Flint, and we hope that these grants will help African-American owned businesses reopen safely and continue to grow and move forward in these uncertain times. We also hope that this effort will build on others and that others will participate in this program, and that there will be additional efforts like the Chamber's African-American Advisory Committee that can be bolstered by this, and the newly formed Greater Flint Coronavirus Task Force on Racial Disparities and Inequalities to remove barriers to success. And at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that Flint is a more just, equitable community, and really thank you for spearheading this effort, and we're proud to play our part on behalf of the Mott Foundation.
Thanks so much, Ridgway. We're very grateful to the CS Mott Foundation for your contribution, and to the Consumers Energy Foundation for the initial contribution. And we too are hoping to see additional dollars come in and support even more small businesses across the county, specifically in the city of Flint, and especially for those who have been disparately impacted in the African-American community and minority communities. So thank you so much to the CS Mott Foundation. We're glad that you could join us today. And we'll be excited to report to you all the great impacts that your dollars have made.
Well, I just hope that this allows the community to reopen in a safe manner, in a proper manner, and that's the most important thing is protecting the health and safety of everyone, and reopening as safely and smartly as possible.
Great, thank you. And we couldn't agree more. There is certainly a health crisis happening in our community, but we can also see the impacts on our economy and what this is doing to our local small businesses that are the heart of our communities, that create identity for the places that we want and we do live in and that we work in. So the Chamber could see a need right off the bat in doing surveys with our small businesses to understand what was impacting them, and we're seeing things about cash flow and retaining employees, and ultimately we hear about the health and safety of their employees and their customers as being the number one priority. As this pandemic has evolved and we've all had new regulations to follow, new protocols to put in our offices and businesses, we have understood that sometimes there's a cost associated with those, especially as new regulations come and we start to reopen. There will be some expenses associated with that in order to ensure that staff and customers are safe and that we're protecting health while we also restart our economy. So that is the real purpose behind the Restart Flint and Genesee Small Business Grant Program, is to help as many small businesses in Genesee County as we can to safely restart and reopen their businesses. And the dollars from this grant will be used to support purchase of PPE or cleaning services or other things that a business might need to put in place in order to restart safely. I'll give you a little bit of background about this, and before I get into some details, just want to make note, Ridgway mentioned that the CSMOT dollars are specifically funding African-American owned businesses in the city of Flint, and last week we announced that the Consumers Energy Foundation would be supporting businesses all across Genesee County. And so I want to make it clear that as we talk about these programs, these funders have specific interests, but you as the potential applicant or business need only apply once, and that is available through our chamber website, and I'm going to go through that in a little bit, but want to make it clear that there's no need for you to reapply if you already have and you qualify for the use of funds that CSMOT has identified. We are going to be doing the matchmaking of applicants to funding sources based on your eligibility criteria. So feel free to go in, apply once, even if we continue to announce additional funders coming forward and that might have different caveats or interests. We will be doing the work behind the scenes to make sure that you are matched to the funder that meets your needs. We will not be able to fund everybody. This is a highly competitive program. So far, we've gotten a $200,000 commitment from Consumers Energy and $262,500 from the CSMOT Foundation. That will not cover a ton of businesses. We are aiming to raise additional dollars, and we hope to expand the breadth of the program beyond what we can support with those two foundations, although we are really looking forward to seeing how far we can take the impact from these initial investments. So I want to just make sure that we are kind of on task here. We've got the program. I'm going to give you a little bit of eligibility requirements behind the program. So you must own a small business in Genesee County. If you have a business in the city of Flint and are African-American owned, those questions will be on the application. So that will help us to identify what source your dollars could come from. Also, there are priority points given for businesses who have barriers. So those could be African-American owned, minority owned, women owned, even for the funds that cover the county. So we will want to understand how your business might already have some barriers to success statistically, and we will also be wanting to know about your economic hardship, about your experiences from going through this pandemic and what this has done to your workforce and to the way that you do business. So those are all questions that you will see on the application. Businesses must have less than 50 employees. They cannot be a franchise. This is an important one. Your business must be in good standing with the state of Michigan. So those are things that we will check through LARA. And we get the question a lot about, if I'm an independent contractor, I have a booth at a salon, am I eligible? And my answer to that question is, if you are a business, you have an LLC, an S Corp, and you are registered with the state of Michigan, that would qualify you, and that is something that we will be checking as part of the application process. Some specific businesses or industries that we know have been impacted significantly by the stay home, stay safe order are those like barbershops, hair salons, tattoo parlors, bars and restaurants, construction or landscaping, daycare, senior living or care facilities, and non-critical manufacturing. The program is designed to specifically support those who've been most significantly impacted by the executive orders. Other larger or sort of less impacted areas will not be prioritized. So some of those might be legal services or financial services, farms, medical offices. Those would not be considered for these funds. We are looking for businesses that have a significant impact on their community or their neighborhood. So, if you want to be able to demonstrate in your application that you're the closest grocery store in a certain radius, and without you, that community would lack access to healthy foods or grocery services. Or if you are part of the identity of a downtown, you contribute to the Concert in the Park series, and you open your doors to the baseball team when they are doing a fundraiser. I mean, these are the types of things that you're going to want to specify in your application. We also are asking in the application for you to report to us any other funds you might have applied for through the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program with the federal government, the EIDL loans, and any other supports that you may have applied for, not so much so that you'll be eliminated from that pool or that we will hold that against you in any way, but more so for informational purposes. There is a data lag from those programs where we don't always know what the success rate has been or who's applied, and we want to make sure our community is being supported in the best way that it can. And if there is a gap there, and there may be, then we want to make sure that we are addressing that. So that is for informational purposes and will not be scored higher or lower based on your answers. I mentioned the use of funds. This is specifically for restarting your business. So the grants are up to $5,000 and can be used for purchase of personal protection equipment, masks, gloves, etc., cleaning services to sterilize or deep clean your offices or your facilities more often in some cases than you traditionally would. They might be cleaning supplies. And then there might be bigger things. You might determine you need a new point of sale system. Maybe you need disposable menus. Maybe you need to have different materials available for your customers and your staff. So some of those might be regulated and you might learn some best practices that you want to employ. And some of those might be that you've decided that these are things that you need to do in order to adjust your business model. So that is a bit about the program. I am going to go ahead. I'm going to do a couple technical things here, and we're going to share my screen. I'm going to show you how to go into our website and apply and give you a little bit of a background on that. So just bear with me for 1 minute. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go right back to our homepage. So when you come to the Chamber's website, flintandgenesee.org, you'll see our coronavirus page has many resources for you. We are putting together as many lists or our access to resources for you for buying PPE. So even if you're not funded but are looking for listings, we are working on putting together a comprehensive list of places you might call, and we're trying to get as local as possible. But for the Restart Flint and Genesee program, you saw a link there on our main page. Also, you can get to it. There's these tabs of all of the different resources that we're providing to small businesses or any business really to respond. And you can see we've got the criteria listed, the application in here, and some more information about our funders. So you're welcome to take a look at that. I am going to take a minute to go into our frequently asked questions and share with you some of the things you might find here. So again, eligibility, the grant size. Here is again reference to other loans or grant programs you may have applied for that we would like to have information about. Reference to your essentialness to your community, and then use of funds. So there's several things in here that will provide you with additional information on what you need to know about this application. a couple of notes that Ridgway mentioned, an outside review committee. The way these are scored is actually, so we will be doing filtering within the office when you submit your application. And again, you only need to submit the application one time, regardless of additional announcements around funding. Once you submit that, we can go through and filter and check for all the basic requirements. And then we convene an outside review committee of folks from around the county and around the city. We'll actually have 2 different review committees based on the different grant priorities to review your applications and score them. So that will be of interest to our review committee. They're going to want to go through all of those different pieces and make sure that you are able to provide good content about what your impact is and how you've been impacted. So please take the time at that part of the application. I'm going to now take a minute and show you the application itself. Bear with me. We're going to go to, okay, so when you get into the application, you're going to see some filtering questions that verify your eligibility. And then it's going to, once you get through those, it's going to show you this portion, which is the meat of the application, the amount you're requesting. Not everybody will be fully funded. So we are doing up to $5,000. You can apply for $5,000. We will ask later in the application for justification for those use of funds. So be sure that you're asking for an appropriate amount for what you plan to use the dollars for that respond to your recovery. So, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So here's the part where you're completing this and giving us some race and ethnicity background. That will help us filter for which grant funding is most appropriate. And there are potentially bonus points given for minorities or those who have barriers to success. So that portion needs to be completed. And then we've got business type. So this is a part where we are verifying that you are indeed a business, not an individual, not a nonprofit. You have to demonstrate that you have a registered business. And then your EIN number will need to go in there. Some of this will help us if you are funded in populating your grant paperwork. Everybody who is awarded will be given a grant agreement with some specifics about reporting requirements, verifying expenses, and reporting back to us on how the grant helped you to restart your business and what impact that had. We can't take franchises, but if you have multiple locations, you may list those. If those are separate businesses, you can apply for more than one business, but they have to have 2 or more than 1 registered business. So each registered business is the applicant. Here's some more information that you'll need to fill out. Again, this Paycheck Protection Program, EIDL loan grant programs, this is all for informational purposes only. This section here where there's more narrative required is very, very important that you take the time to concisely but thoroughly describe how you are valuable to your customers, clients, your neighborhood, and how you have been impacted, what your need is. Those are very important pieces to your application success. So please take the time there to be thoughtful. Estimated expenses. So this is where you've maybe identified you are requesting $5,000, and here's where you would need to describe how would you plan to utilize those expenses. So if you're buying masks, if you're putting in a new point of sale system, or making other adjustments, you should provide those descriptions of how much you anticipate the cost would be for that. We're also curious about your employment of your staff. So we want to know about any effects this may have had on your workforce. Have you made adjustments? Have you laid people off? These are all things that will be relevant to us as we collect data around the way our small businesses have been impacted, and it demonstrates a need. So if you have not been able to retain employees, that is something that we would like to know. Financial information, we are not requiring attachments for verification, but it's possible as we go through a grant verification process, we could ask for that stuff. So be sure to put accurate information in here and as much as you can for these last 3 years, and then as well as estimated revenue loss for the next 3 months. This includes May, we're halfway through, but if you can project for us what those losses might be, that is another way of demonstrating impact. And then we've got some verifications that you'll need to agree to, and that is it. So it's as simple as that. I think that about covers the application. And I think if I've missed anything else, again, one application is all that you need to do. We will have an outside review committee and score those applications. We've had some questions about timing. The applications are due, the first round of these are due May 24th by midnight. That gives you enough time to get your application in and for us to convene our review committees. We are going to try to expedite the review process as much as possible so that we can get the dollars out the door as soon as we can. But there will be a little bit of time required for review and then grant agreement paperwork that people who are awarded will need to complete. We're trying to do as much of this digitally as possible, of course. So ACH payments are something that we're trying to set up. And so your ability to be as technically savvy as you can will go a long way in making this an efficient process. With that, Stephen, I'm thinking now we can probably take it to question and answer.
Thanks, Christina. Very informative. I'm seeing a handful of questions so far. We're going to jump right in. The first one, if you could just, I'm going to put it on the screen. It's a little longer, but just some clarification around LLC, S Corp, DBA, why it's important to have that in order to be eligible.
Sure. So when we give dollars out and what is allowed actually in the nonprofit sector, we cannot give dollars to individuals. So they have to go to a business entity in this case, and we have to have a way to verify that business. So they must go in as some type of business that is registered with the state.
Next question, who are the individuals that will be on the review committee?
I don't have a list of names, but I can tell you for the city of Flint, we are utilizing the review committee as significantly overlapping with a review committee we used during the Moving Flint Forward grant program that we recently ran in partnership with the GM Foundation. So we have individuals that are representative of the community. We're doing 2 review committees, one for city applicants and then one that represents more of the county, and that will have a spread of individuals that come from all cross sections of the county.
Next question, are employment training programs eligible for this grant program?
If it's a business and not a nonprofit, and you can speak to your essentialness to your community or the needs that you have, then you could apply, yes.
I know you touched on this, but just briefly, timeline, application close date, approval denial, and then funds awarded date.
Sure. We don't have that exactly nailed down, partially because we're not sure how many applications we're going to get and how much time we need to allot for review. We're trying to make it as quick as possible. So basically, we're going to be ready to go. When your applications come in on the 24th, we'll have met with our review committee and trained them on the scoring process. And we'll be giving them access to all of the applications that come in very shortly thereafter. So I think the 25th is a holiday. That 26th, we're likely to get them access to all the applications and scoring rubrics, and give them a tight deadline. So it'll be quite a toll and a task on those volunteers. We appreciate their energy. So that's how that will work.
And this one, I don't think we would have an answer for, but it's an interesting question. Time frame for forecasting how long our businesses will need PPE equipment.
We are all waiting for that direction from the state of Michigan. I think our own offices is kind of how I relate, is what are we trying to figure out in the chamber for our own staff, keeping our staff and customers safe. And we're looking at this for the long term. So, I imagine even if you've already made purchases, it's another key point. If you've purchased masks or other supplies already, we cannot reimburse for previous expenses. But like you're saying, this might be an ongoing thing that we're considering for the length of the summer, maybe even into fall or beyond. And so these are probably some recurring costs that we're hoping to alleviate a little bit of the expense for that.
Thank you. Next question. It's about cleaning services. It says cleaning services during new construction in Genesee County area. I think are cleaning services eligible?
Yeah, if you can speak to your need and the way that you've been impacted. Now, you might see an uptick in business right now, which might affect your description of need. If you've had to add staff in order to work with businesses and deep clean their offices, that might be a good thing for you. But we are, I would tell you, go ahead and apply and describe how you've been impacted and what it's going to take for you to safely restart and ramp up, because we really want to see our businesses being as productive as possible.
Next question. What if you are in the tech industry that doesn't have a lot of physical employees under one roof?
Again, the dollars can only be utilized for restart purposes. So if you have expenses associated with doing that safely, then that's what you would apply for. I would imagine it'd be a harder demonstration of need if your staff is already working remotely safely and not needing that additional expense for coming back to work.
Here's another one. Real estate business. Any long history in business, would they be eligible?
Unfortunately, not real estate in this particular grant opportunity. We've been trying to figure out which industries have been that we can cover and spread these dollars, and unfortunately not real estate at this time.
Next question. Can we have help with more than one business? So if an individual has more than, okay.
Yes. Yep. You can apply for each individual business that you're a part of. So it's not by business owner, it's by the business itself. So one business owner who has multiple businesses can apply. And again, there's that section for multiple locations. If it's all under one business, registered business, and you have multiple locations, please list that in the application.
Next question. Christina, are businesses that have been in existence less than 1 year eligible?
Yeah, we are. You can apply. We want you to, I think, and it might actually be 1 year of, and I'd have to go back and check our FAQ on that one. But we do ask for 3 years worth of financials to demonstrate that you have a commitment to your community and some viability and sustainability in place. So if you are at a year mark, go ahead and apply, but we will be looking for some longevity as proof of your business viability.
Is a food truck eligible?
I don't see why not. I would consider that to be very much like a restaurant, and I'm sure there would be expenses associated with making sure that that is utilizing best practices.
Same question for a chiropractor.
No medical offices, so I would consider that probably in the medical area. So unfortunately, no, not medical offices.
Okay. Not that we have so far. Let me just do a little check. Yeah, those are all the questions we have so far.
Okay.
Christina, do you have any closing remarks? And if anything pops in real quick before we close out, we'll tackle those. But Christina, anything you want to add before we close?
The only thing that I'd add again is just a thanks to our funders, the CSMAT Foundation this week, supporting specifically African-American owned businesses in the city of Flint. It's just, we've been a part of this Inequities Committee task force and working with the Community Foundation and many community partners. And there's no denying the disparities and the way this has impacted the African-American community, specifically in Flint. So we're really proud to be a part of a program that can help meet the needs in that community. And then again, we're very happy to also have the Consumers Energy Foundation on board, and being able to serve the whole county is something that's very key to our business, and wanting to make sure that we're being as supportive to our local economy as possible. So thanks to those funders again, and please, if you want to share this webinar, please do. If you with anybody who you think might be a eligible applicant. If you are hesitant or considering whether or not you think you are likely to be funded and you're just not sure, I would encourage you to apply. This is the time to take advantage of every resource that's available to you. If you've already applied, you only need to apply once for us, but please don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it, and take advantage of the other programs that are beyond this. This has a relatively small scope, in terms of dollars, and we hope to grow that, but there are other federal resources. You can find that information on the Chamber's website about how to access those. So our goal is to make sure that our community is able to be as resilient as possible in a time of need. So I would encourage all businesses to be on the lookout for those resources, utilize the Chamber as a place to find out what's available to you, and take advantage of it. Take the time to complete your applications, ask questions if you need to, and we're here to help.
A few other questions have come in, and it looks like if you would clarify the difference between this one and the MEDC program.
Sure, the MEDC program, that was a program that they put in place that they asked each regional administrator to put out into the community. We were tasked with executing that on behalf of the state. So the application process was very different. The eligibility was a bit different. We were able to fund 52 applications from that, and we had 1,500 applications. So you can see we were able to identify a significant need in our community by looking at the gap of applications to what there was available funding. This was meant to hopefully supplement that to some degree, but it's a completely different process. So if you applied for that, and we learned not the easiest process, technically. So in our process, there's no filling out an Excel document. This should be able to be done much more mobile friendly and without as much of a toll on getting P&L statements or attachments put together. So we learned some lessons from the MEDC process. We've executed programs like this before. And while we look at them as all important to supporting businesses in our community, don't consider that to be the same thing. And if you were funded through that, doesn't mean you're not eligible for this. You can apply again.
Yep. There was a comment here. I'll put it up on the screen. Application closed March 29th. So that was for the MEDC program. Mm-hmm. Restart Flint and Genesee is something different.
May 24th at midnight. Yep.
Last question. Well, actually, there's two more. We'll close out with this last one here, Eric. But Glenn Wilson is asking, can nonprofits that provide supports for for-profits apply?
Unfortunately, no, we're not able to support nonprofits with these funds. We want to, but that's really kind of in the space of the Community Foundation and the program that they've established. And so I would encourage you to check out the Community Foundation's website to see what relief there is available for nonprofits.
And then we'll close with this. Can you repeat the website again, please?
Oh, sure. If you go to flintandgenesee.org, there's a link right on that front page for the Restart Flint and Genesee Grant Program, where you'll have access to FAQs, the application itself, and other information.
Thank you, Christina. As Christina mentioned, this webinar you can find on our YouTube channel, our Facebook, and it will be posted to our website shortly after. Thank you all for joining us. Christina, anything before we go?
No, thanks, Stephen. And again, I hope you're all doing well, staying safe. We're all looking forward to getting back out there and engaging with each other and our economy and buying the things we need and going back to our offices. So we're hopeful that this helps everybody do that safely.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.